Welcome to Pharmacy View podcast, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In this stream of podcast episodes, we discuss aspects of pharmacy career, resources and training, and how each area interacts with guests' current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Kavita Nadan, Pharmacist founder from Locumate, and my guest today is proudly brought to you by Shopfront Solutions, for all of your shelf and digital marketing needs, part of the Arion Technologies Group.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me on my first ever podcast of the Careers, Resource and Training series with Pharmacy View podcast. And today I have my first ever guest, Karen Brown. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. What a privilege to be first.
I know, when I was going through, like Scott said, make your list, let me know who you want to start off with. I was like, okay, Karen Brown's at the top. Like, I have followed your journey over the good past year once I joined LinkedIn, and it's just been amazing day on day to see, what you're doing, what you're up to. And it's very inspiring, to be honest. I mean, managing partner at TWC Arana Hills, founder of Batch Tested, previous professional netballer for the Firebirds. So much going on, but there's no better person than yourself to let us know who Karen Brown is. So take it away, Karen.
Who I am, as you mentioned, I wear a lot of hats and I love all those hats, and I do actually think there's a synergy between all of them. So first and foremost, a pharmacist, a childhood dream, 14-year-old at Year 9 Careers Information Day, decided I wanted to be a pharmacist because I wanted to help people, and I thought they looked like really pretty places to work. And back in the 90s, they were all that kind of glamour David Jones style pharmacies. I wanted to do that. And now I own a partner in 2 stores now, and over time have been a partner in 4 stores. Love pharmacy ownership. Then expanded into Batch Tested, which is a nice synergy between my netball career and my pharmacy career. And then obviously with Pharmacy Redefined, which is about helping owners through an owners summit. So, and then I'm a wife and I'm a mum. Yes, jack of all trades, but love it.
I know. And I think having so much variety probably helps to, pursue other passions and do other projects. So what have you found, having so many things going on at the same time, what are some of the synergies or things that you found have helped to work for one thing and help to contribute to, pursue other things? Like, what are some things that kind of interconnected that help you to achieve these things?
I think the core of it is I just want to help people. So whether it's helping my team be better people, whether it's helping my patients get healthier, whether it's helping my community, my industry when it comes to helping other owners, and now helping athletes as well. And I think so much of what I learned in sport is what I apply in business. I think there's a huge cross-section there. And it really, at the core of it, whether it's sport or business, you are just a people manager. You're bringing a group of individuals together for a common goal, whether that's to be the most successful pharmacy, to win a premiership. It's just managing people. And I think right at my core of all the things I do, I just love helping people and making people better. And then there's a flow and effect to your community and your industry. And yourself as well, I think. Yeah, so the core is the same, but I do love that variety of no days the same. And even getting into speaking roles now and presenting, and I've kind of got 3 weekends in a row of presenting. So things like, I just love that variety. I love the business side of it. I love the clinical side of it. I love the sporting side of it. So, yeah, I feel quite privileged actually and grateful that I get to do what I love doing, and I think that's infectious then as well.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think the more that you step outside of your comfort zone and experience little things like, for example, the speaking or presentations, for some people that would be really daunting. But once you start to do it, it kind of becomes this little thrill or this high, like, hey, I'm out there speaking and imparting information. Yeah. So when, being an entrepreneur and being, having this diverse range of activities and projects that you're part of, for somebody who might be starting out thinking, hey, I've been doing I've been in community pharmacy for a while. I want to venture out. I want to try something different. What would be probably, let's say, your top 3 advice for somebody who might want to start out in something completely different?
I think the biggest one is take your blinkers off. And definitely early in my career, probably the first 10 years of my career, I was the managing partner at Sanford before I sold it, and it was my baby. That was the one thing I did. And I think probably a negative from sport is we are so goal-driven, and that can create quite a tunnel vision, and you kind of forget the periphery of what's actually available. And I feel definitely in the last probably 5 years, I've really just gone left, right, centre kind of thing. So I definitely think don't have your blinkers on. Absolutely say yes to opportunities, because you just never know where a door will lead you. So have that periphery, say yes when people offer you an opportunity. And also one of my favourite quotes is build the plane while you're flying it. Don't wait for perfection. You can adapt and adjust and, yes, have your parachute ready to go. But I think it's something that people procrastinate too long and just miss the opportunity. So just you've got your concept, just go for it. And ultimately, what's the worst thing that can happen? And that's how Batch Tested started for me, was just friends going, you've got all these connections in pharmacy. You used to be an athlete. You're the perfect person to execute this platform for us. I'd never run an e-com platform before, done anything like this. And it was just, yes, now wing it to an extent, but yes, let's just do it. And I'll surround myself with the right people that can help me do and that's something in pharmacy ownership. You don't have to know every aspect. You surround yourself with an amazing accountant, an amazing lawyer, the bank manager, those kind of people. You don't have to know everything yourself. So say yes and then work out what you need to do, but don't wait for it to be perfect either before you launch, because launching is part of the fun, and then it's just adapting and building on it and what worked, what didn't work, how do we change that, what can we do better.
That is amazing. And I tell this to a lot of my students as well, that, if we end up having to wait, and especially in startup land, there is no time. You have to just jump both feet in and surround yourself with people who will probably have that expertise that you're looking for. But the main thing is to start, right?
Absolutely.
And that's number one, and that's literally, you've nailed that on the head. And I think that's so important, whether it be just even going out to, manage a pharmacy, which might be so daunting for some of the young early career pharmacists out there. But amazing, great.
I think there's a really common trend at the moment of get comfortable being uncomfortable. You just have to. You can't. Yeah. Life is quite boring if you just stay in equilibrium. You think of a seesaw, you've got to go out to the edges, and guess what? It may go up or it may go down, but there's a whole lot more fun happens out there than sitting perfectly in the middle on equilibrium.
Well, I think that also contributes to this whole thing of, stagnation in our careers, right? If we are not willing to go out there and seek it ourselves, then it's us. We have to be proactive, right? Yeah. But nobody's going to stand there. Oh, you're not going to have to. You can't wait there and wait for somebody to go, hey, this is a great opportunity. Come, no, and especially I'm finding now more than ever for us to be so much more present and get the most out of our careers, and even professionally and even personally, we have to step outside of that comfort zone, but also go out and reach it and find it, which is literally what you're doing right now. I mean, that's amazing. You've had so much going on, not just over the past however many years, but even more so recently, being nominated for Farm Guild Pharmacy of the Year. Where were you when you found out that news?
We were just in stores. So obviously we've had a huge 12 months, 18 months out of Rana Hills. We won National TerryWhite Chemmart Pharmacy of the Year, which was just huge considering the store's 42 years old. I've been an owner for 4 years of that with my business partner. But to think how much we've transformed that in the last couple of years, we've clocked over 25,000 COVID vaccinations. So we've really absolutely put our mark in our community. And so then, yes, when the email came through to say that we'd been nominated, I thought it was a real nice reflection of our store and how much it's grown and what we have achieved. And I'm very big on, challenging the status quo, doing things differently. And I think personally for me, it's been a really good, I had huge success at my former store at Sanford. And one of the reasons I was really keen to manage partner another store was to kind of, I suppose, prove to myself that I could do it again, but in a very different environment and a very different way.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's really nice to be recognised. It's nice for the team to be recognised. But also I'm very strong with the team that you don't need validation from the outside world to know that you're doing a good job. The culture in the team, the response from the community, that's amazing. And the validation from the higher powers to be is a really nice thing to have on your trophy shelf. But it's not the be-all and end-all for, I think people do get disappointed sometimes when they don't get recognised or get that validation, and it's really important, as long as internally you guys know you're doing a really good job and your community responds to that, then that's a win as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you don't have that internal motivating factors, you're not ever going to get to where you want to get to. Correct. Anyway, right? It's just icing on the cake when you get recognised, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nationally as well. So, obviously very successful pharmacy that you're running, and, that last 4 years is a testament to how much hard work and this recognition is contributing to that. Where do you think are some of the training that other pharmacies could potentially invest in at a pharmacy level, whether it be staff or professional services? What do you think is important right now?
Oh, look, I think both of those channels are extremely important. I invest heavily in personal development for my team. I'm a really strong believer that people want to belong to something bigger than themselves. And people want to belong in a team. People, your community want to be part of something in the industry, and all of that success then flows through for the greater good of your business. Yeah. My other philosophy is that you leave a better person than when you started with me. And I think there's a lot of trends where you might have someone for 10, 15, 20 years. You may have someone for 2 years as a part-time job while they're studying law at uni. So I think our workforce is very part-time, full-time, career-orientated, stepping stones. So as long as I develop you as a person and you leave a better person, then I've absolutely done my job. And that then becomes that personal development. So I invest quite heavily in leadership training for my team, even just as simple as investing in initiatives that we do. Like we did a Shark Tank this year, which was hugely successful.
Oh, that looked amazing.
So many
I'm
ideas.
stealing that idea.
Yeah. But I think it all comes back to the culture that you have and the foundation that you set up in your store. But for me, that really showed, 12 people in their own time, the amount of work they put into their pictures blew me. It actually just made me so proud that they were that dedicated at 8 o'clock at night at the end of potentially being there for 12 hours, that they were so passionate about putting in a pitch to see how they could better our store. Yeah. Now, once again, that is a ripple effect, that you get the right people on your bus, and I'm very big about the Team Arana bus. Yeah. Getting a ticket on that bus and what it means to be on that bus and what role you play on the bus. And we don't want people with their feet out the door trying to go the other direction or hold you up kind of thing. And so whilst I think it's very much, there's so much opportunity out there for employment at the moment, but still finding the right people is just so important for so many aspects. And one of the beautiful things I think when people walk into the store is when they say, I love the vibe in here, or we got a customer review that just said it looks like a really fun place to work. And I was really privileged to go to LA pre-COVID and go to the Disney Institute at Disneyland. And one of the famous quotes by Walt Disney is, people can feel perfection. And when you walk into Disneyland, you can just feel something special. And I love that when we execute that so well in store, that people feel like it's a warm hug or feel like they belong to our pharmacy. And so that's environment. You surround yourself with the amazing people that everyone just filters through that environment. Then from a professional development, I think we're sitting on the precipice of the scope that we are going to see in pharmacy in the next 5 years is just skyrocketing, which is so exciting. I'm really big on specialty pharmacy and pharmacists, having a real niche. even our assistants. I think that's the future for assistants as well, having these niches. And that's something I really look for in pharmacists, that you have a specialty, charge fee for service. And I really think that our pharmacies are going to be, look, there's going to be two. There's going to be your big box, and I think there's going to be these boutique health hubs where even we've had specialists reach out to us that want to use our clinic rooms and things like that, where people realise now you don't need mass waiting rooms, you don't need receptionists, and certain specialties that actually don't need a lot of equipment either. They just want a clinic space, and the pharmacy is the perfect space, and it's a win-win for both of you. So I think previously medical centres were that, and then the pharmacy was just a little outshot of that. I think the pharmacy will be the core, and then the outshots will be all the specialties. But look, I think it's a really exciting time to be in pharmacy, and I think, we've really springboarded over the last few years in our community of what people know we can do, and I think that's just going to go even further over the next few years.
Yeah. Do you think there has to be changes in the way that we structure our pharmacies to allow these new services, these new, upskilling to happen? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah. So I'm actually opening a new store next year, and we're looking at the store of the future concept.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, I think the big thing is the script flow. Gone are the days that you go to the doctor next door, you get a piece of paper and you walk into the pharmacy next door and get it filled. There's talk that, in the next couple of years, 50% of doctor's appointments will be telehealth. Now we're going to we've got tokens, we've got ASL, we've got scripts, we've got e-commerce, all the online doctors now, script acquisition is huge. But what does that journey look like in the pharmacy? And I think the core of the pharmacy will always be the same, but I think the customer journey and the tech side of it, and also how much the customer can do themselves in their own time. And also I think, and I haven't got an answer to this, but I think we've become so accessible. How do we then be accessible but at the right timing and that triage in front of you? Or, I'd love to see fee-for-service with telehealth consults for pharmacists, and, we just give away so much free information. And as a day-night pharmacy, I can spend 15, 20 minutes on the phone to someone, and I'm like, I can't charge you for that at the end of that. But how do I, and people, I think, are so have always known pharmacy give free advice. But I think you'll really notice a difference over the next few years where they will actually book in for a consult with the pharmacist for minor ailments, all those kind of things. And I think it'll be really zoned in the pharmacy, I think stores within hubs kind of thing. So let me answer it in 12 months when I open my new store.
Perfect. We'll be having another chat, I'm sure, about how it's actually going. But I agree. That's the way of the future, isn't it? I mean, technology is becoming a lot more prevalent. I know, we are a bit of a conservative industry in a sense when new things and change come along. But I think collectively we need to think about this, that how do we, put this into our workflow and utilise it and make it empower what we're doing. But at the same time, 100% agree, the fee for service and, showing that we are a profession, we are medicine specialists, and that, you can't just come in and just expect to be served and given 15 minutes of our time without valuing that information and our expertise. And I feel like you've just completely got that 100%, but it needs to be across the board, because when you have people doing differently to, pharmacies doing differently to what we want to achieve, that's where this disconnect happens. And I think the more we start to make this a norm, that's going to be what drives the community to realise, wait, this is like going to the GP. You see it in GP land now. Like, we used to have probably 2 bulk billing practices, and now they've completely reverted. Like, they're like, no, we're changing that model now, and it's important. So, community pharmacy is going through a lot of changes, and we've discussed, that there will obviously be a big shift in terms of technology and whatnot. But I think investing in our people and the culture, which you do so well and continue to do. And a great example of that was the recent owner summit that you did up in Uluru, which looked amazing. What inspired you to pursue that project?
It is a side gig, and some people say, why do you and Felicity do this? But I think it goes back to I just want to help people and I want to be surrounded. I get so inspired by my peers, and I think as well I love the business side of pharmacy ownership, and it's generally not a massive feature of our conference program. And I do go to business conferences outside of pharmacy, and I just thought, hang on a minute, I want to listen to these speakers and I want to hear from them. I could go to their workshops, or I could bring them in and do it with 50 of my favourite owners. And it's a really magical space, and people kind of go, how does it work? You're technically all competitors, but we're so not. We're kind of each other's cheerleaders. And I think when we talk about we want to fully shift an industry and what people should expect when they walk into a pharmacy, that one person may be able to start the ripple effect, but it's actually, if there's 100, 500, 1,000 pharmacies doing some of these amazing things, which there already are, but it's just, to be each other's biggest cheerleaders, and some of the best information you get is actually just from the owner next to you. And Uluru was really special, where there was a lot of people that were broken, and there was a lot of people that had actually just blossomed in the last few years. And it's a really safe space where people can just be really honest. And when you have people come up to you at the end and say, you've just totally renewed my passion for pharmacy, I'll be forever grateful. Like, that was some of the notes we got. That's just like, it's worth every bit of part-time after hours trying to do it. But it comes down to, as an owner, it's one of my favourite weeks of the year. And I just happen to be one of the organisers as well. But it's a really, really special. And I feel, as I said, quite lucky that there's so many amazing owners in our industry that do just want to share best practice and make each other better.
I think you just had it at the most perfect time, like 2 years post-pandemic. And you're right, there were probably so many owners that were burnt out beyond belief. And, something like this would have just not allowed them to just reignite their passion, but also just to have somebody who understands them.
Correct.
Like, we can talk to our colleagues and we talk to our staff, and a lot of times we don't, because we want to remain that rock or that person who's constantly motivating them. But to have someone like-minded and understand that was like the perfect environment for that.
And I think ownership can be really lonely, and yes, you can be part of banner groups and part of families, but definitely through the last few years it's been very swan-like, where above the surface we've got it all together, but underneath you're going a million miles an hour, and the amount of filtering of information and protecting your staff, and it's been huge. And I think as well it's, there's young owners in the room that see older owners that they are struggling, and they're like, wow, I thought I'm 15 years in, I thought I should have it all together, but they're 30 years in and I'm exactly the same, and that's okay. But then also the people that had the confidence to go, actually, we thrived through the last few years, and I don't want to disregard what you're saying, but my team really thrived and I'm really proud of them. And I think that's really important as well. And I spoke at Pharmacy Assistants Conferences. Don't get sucked into the doom and gloom and just be part of the snowball. Actually have the courage to go, actually, I'm really proud of what we're doing and I think it's going to be great. And I think what our scope and all, like, don't just get sucked into the easy option of just going with the doom and gloom, that actually have the courage to go, actually, I love this industry and I think what we're doing is really great and I'm really proud of what we're doing and I can't wait to see what happens next, kind of thing.
I love that, because I feel like recently, especially in media, especially social media, there seems to be these certain pockets of groups who tend to just talk about that doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And whereas I'm just here like, hey, guys, the optimism,
Yeah.
But that's collectively, as we keep talking about, if we talk about and we celebrate all the good that we've done as a result, it's a good thing. Yes, we can lament on the fact that, there were some hard times and it was
Absolutely.
tough. And it will be tough moving forward, right? But can you imagine? We're a profession that are getting the chance to just grow and be able to do all these things. And I think having an owners summit, the thing I love about this is that, yes, as owners, you get to go to a few conferences and events and stuff, but you don't have that chance to really connect and work with like-minded people in the sense that you can discuss ideas. So what were some of the really surprising things that you got from the conference that you think, wow, I didn't even think about that before, or, that
it's actually just the little things. I think people think there's these massive sharings of information, but I think one of the things we do really differently is, and every conference in our calendar has its place, which I love, but this is all about workshop style, one speaker a day, fully deep diving into your exact issue and how can we help kind of thing. And it's the little things. Like, one of the biggest things we talked about in the culture section was onboarding, and when they sign the contract and when they start, which is maybe 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, just how critical that time is and how much do we actually do in that time, and what some stores are doing with their onboarding program and welcoming kits. And like the video we did for Guild Pharmacy of the Year, we actually now use as our welcome video to staff that we send out to them to get a real grasp of this is, and how much we induct on processes and procedures, but we don't actually induct on culture.
Yes.
And normally they arrive on the first day and you're like, okay, great, you know how to use Minfos? Great, there's customer, let's go. And you kind of, but what do we actually need to do? And I think as well, sometimes we get caught up in, well, we're not corporates, we're different, but actually we're not, and how we can learn from the corporate world. And, recently I took my team away for the weekend, which is always, if we win National Store of the Year, they get to spend the money on a weekend away. And you can make it happen. And I know we've got a small team, but it's really hard sometimes when you hear people go, oh, we do Friday lunch and we close early. And you're like, well, that's really great. But when you're a retail environment where you've got to open and close, and I think that's something where everyone was talking about flexibility and work from home in an industry where that's not possible. But will that always be the case? And we actually did it's called World Cafe. So you had 6 stations and you had cafe owners. And we talked about the future of pharmacy and what do we think it's going to look like from a store design, from a recruitment perspective, from a tech perspective, from a wholesaling perspective, from a accounting profit and loss perspective, and from a drug company perspective. And we all went around and shared all of our ideas at each station, and then the cafe owners present all of their information of what the group. So stuff like that, like what do we expect our revenue streams to be on our profit and loss in the next few years? What do we expect our wage budget to be, our rent to be? So stuff like that you just get down into the real nitty gritty, and how do different people package their packages for employees, and how do you bundle it all up? And so it is actually just sharing day-to-day information. And as I said to you, some people go, but your competitors, but what I do in Brisbane, if I can help someone in Canberra, or they use this platform to do sleep apnea, and you can use the same platform in Brisbane or Perth. But it's also about having the right people in the room. Like, we're very quite selective, and it's very boutique, and it has to stay boutique because the boutiqueness of it makes the space safe. So that's where it's just this magic kind of, and to think we're a year away and we've got 4 spots left and we have no agenda, no speakers. We're actually working through all the speakers at the moment, and there's almost too much good content out there to fit into 3 days.
To choose,
And I feel as well the pressure's on. We've set such a high standard now that we've got to really deliver. But look, I love it. As I said, as an owner, it's my favourite week of the year.
Perfect. I think what I got from this is the need to spend that time away from store, away from pharmacy, to have these creative discussions and to be able to get everyone's input, right? One thing that possibly a lot of people or a lot of owners should do is get that engagement from all their staff, whether it's your junior who works 1 shift a week up to your colleague or pharmacist who's your full-time manager, because everyone has something to say and it might be important in shaping that pharmacy.
And it's something we spoke about at the conference on the weekend with the assistants is you've got to have a culture in your store, though, that cultivates ideas.
Absolutely.
And what do you do with those ideas? And if it's a suggestion box, who actually looks at those ideas, who follows up on them. But also if you're putting forward an idea, you following up on that as well. And also I'm very big on coming with a plan, and depending on where you probably sit in the store in your role, what I expect from you. But the really good ones will be, here's my plan, here's my pitch, this is my plan, this is what I want to do, this is how much it's going to cost, this is how we're going to market it, this is what our return's going to be, this is what I expect at the end. But you also might have a junior that just has an idea and knows what they want at the end, but you need to help them join the dots as well to get them to there.
Correct.
But thinking about step 2, step 3, step 4 is really, really good. And also how you actually, you've got to have an environment where people can give you ideas, but also how to handle those ideas that if you're, I don't think we're quite on track there, without squashing them, because fear of rejection is really, well, you dished my last idea, so I'm not going to give you another one. How you actually handle that and how you can work and massage it to still get a really good outcome. And I think with Shark Tank, we had 12 very different ideas, which really surprised me as well, that they all went down different tracks. We always have a philosophy that there's 3 pillars. There's health, team, and community, and your ideas. So we do strategy sessions twice a year, and then we do Shark Tank. They come with an idea, and it's got to form into one of those pillars. And then collectively as a team, which ones do we want to back? Which ones are we? Because once again, one person can't run that idea. It's got to be everyone behind it. And how do you win over all your teammates to go, this is a really good idea? But also you can't always quantify return on investment. And I think that's really important as well. There's a lot of ways to see that it's working, and it's not just in a balance sheet to go, well, this is how much we spent and this is how much we've made. But also it's also not immediate response either. It might be months down the track that someone now shops at your pharmacy because of an event or a promotion or something that you did 6 months ago.
That's right. And that's like when we're going back to earlier, right? Going into it, deep diving into whatever, idea or project you might have, but then having also the ability to see, hey, I might not get return on investment, whether it be through, increased customers or it be people knowing about it or branding or whatever, but to know that little milestones that you wish to achieve over the next 2 months,
and
3 months.
And I think sometimes the intangible is actually so much more beneficial than the tangible. It's the magic, it's the stuff you can't see that I think actually makes your team and then indirectly makes your business very successful.
I love that. Thank you so much for that, Karen. Okay, just as a closer, what advice, if you were to go back to your 18-year-old Karen, what advice would you give to her right now?
See, at 18, I was playing professional netball and I'd actually just missed out on my score to get into pharmacy. So I ended up doing science first. And at that time I was like, is the world going to end because I didn't get into my dream career that I always wanted to do? But things always happen for a reason, and also just make the most, enjoy each moment. Like I'm very driven and forward thinking and achieve one thing, what's on to the next thing, which is a very sport thing. I move on pretty quickly. You think of netball, you play every week, and I just move on. Yep, sorted, tick, we've done that really well. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? But I was very privileged to do Kokoda back in 2019 with a group from TerryWhite Chemmart, and it's one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done. And one of the biggest learnings from that was just be where your feet are. And that's something that I'm really trying to do with everything that I juggle. Just be where your feet are and be in that moment. And I wish, back in my late teens that I would have kind of smelt the roses more along the way. And I definitely do that now. I really try and take it all in, but then get going again.
There are only certain things we can change. Some things are just intrinsically habits by now.
Yes.
But I'm so glad to hear that you are trying to make some changes because, at the end of the day, like little things, if we tweak, we just get to see a different perspective on things, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today, Karen. I feel like talking to you, I'm just like talking to somebody who completely gets it and literally what's in my head and has been for the past however many years. Like that was just verbalized, and this conversation was so riveting and so amazing, and I'm so excited that you're my first guest, so I'm so honoured for that. And I know that we'll be talking again because, as you said, there's a lot of projects that you're involved in coming up, and I guess I'll have to look at the next summit for next year. In Fiji, it's my homeland. I should come and Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Pharmacy View podcast, and don't forget to like, share, and leave us a comment if you found this episode of value or have feedback. Podcast episodes are promoted through social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, and major podcast mediums, and each episode can be found on the Pharmacy View webpage with links to the guest contact and business details. If you're a pharmacist or industry support supplier and would like to join us on an episode, send us a message through LinkedIn or complete the inquiry form on the Pharmacy View webpage. I'm your host, Kavita Nadan, pharmacist founder from Locumate, and thanks again for joining us today on the Pharmacy View podcast.